And it felt like the scriptures had sent me these people, these heroes, to carry me through this really, really hard time.
You know, taking care of him and that time was completely and utterly overwhelming and the greatest privilege of my life. And I wish I were doing it now.
They learn how to think about others. They learn how to see others through the eyes of the Savior.
Hello and welcome to Latter-day Profiles. We're here at the LDS Motion Picture Studio in Provo, Utah. And joining me today is Erin Willder. Erin, welcome. It's good to have you here.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Erin is the Communications Manager at BYU Continuing Education, also one of the founding members of LDSPMA, and I'm going to read to get it right because we just changed the name, Latter-day Saints in Publishing, Media, and the Arts. So, and also currently the president of that organization, so we want to talk about that as well. It's good to have you here with us today.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your background, where you're from. Let's talk about your career path, how you ended up here at BYU, but where are you from?
I'm originally from Michigan. I grew up near Battle Creek. I don't know if anyone knows where that is, but it's where Kellogg's world headquarters is.
Cornflakes.
Yeah, you literally can smell cornflakes when you walk through the streets in Battle Creek. So yeah, I'm from a small town, and my parents joined the church when I was 3. So I am, kind of a second generation member of the church. And yeah, so they've set a real legacy of faith for me, in the way they were searching for a church. And they searched until they found the one they loved, and here we are.
That's awesome. What was it like growing up there as a member of the church? Were there many members growing up?
No. In fact, I didn't live in Battle Creek. We had to drive about 25 minutes to get to our ward building. So, yeah, I was the only member of the church in my school, and except my brother when he got to be old enough to be in my school. And, yeah, I took some abuse for that. I took some, ribbing about, the things I could and couldn't do. But, overall, it made me stronger.
Yeah, I think about that as a comparison as, growing up here, close to like Provo and a lot of the people of the church here. And then outside, so at one point you've got lots of members, and so you're not different if you're a member, but you're out there and you are a member, but you're the only one. Kind of an interesting, back and forth of you've probably experienced both. Now at BYU, of course, they're surrounded by members of the church, was a whole different climate.
Yeah, and I chose that. I think it was about 2004 or 5, I started having this feeling. We were living in Michigan, actually, for a few years, and we had been in England, so even farther away. And I just had this feeling I wanted my kids to go to seminary at school. I had just gotten this idea in my head, and I just knew I wanted to live in Utah. And we just had this amazing, amazing, miraculous chain of events where a human resources manager in Orem couldn't sleep one night and found my husband's resume online and just boom, 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 and we were here within about 2 months.
Wow. And
so I know I was brought here, and our family was brought here for a reason, and so far so good. Yeah.
That's great. Well, how did you? Let's talk about your career path, ending up now where you are with continuing education at BYU. What kind of things do leading up to that?
Yeah, so I went to BYU. I was a student in the early 90s, and I was mentored by some amazing professors in editing and publishing. And I worked on publications at BYU while I was a student. And, I just never had any doubt I was going to be in publishing. I knew, from a very young age. I started going to publishing conferences when I was, 13. I knew. So it just kind of grew. And I worked in North Carolina. I worked right next to Duke University and published books for Duke in North Carolina for a while. And, so it just grew. I began to get into publishing manuals for technology companies and consulting companies. And so I was able to work from home for 20 years while I raised my 4 children. And it was amazing because I could work during their naps, and I can work, I could work after they went to bed at night. And so that has really also driven my experience, because I've been so grateful for the mentoring I received at BYU that it was just an absolute yes when I had this opportunity to teach at BYU and then to be an employer at BYU and hire, young people and teach them how to have a career in publishing.
Yeah. Let's talk about publishing for a minute, because when you say publishing, I'm thinking your editing, your acquisition, your writing, what all goes into what you were doing?
Yeah, so I'm a little ADHD. Like, I like to do everything. And so I write, I edit, I design. I've taught design at BYU in the digital humanities program. And I like the holistic approach to publishing. Like, if I ever, get into writing, like someday when I grow up, it will be a totally different kind of a publication. I've already got it figured out. Like, it'll be like a choose your own adventure book. Ooh, I'm not supposed to say that trademarked word, but it'll be different. So anyway, not to tip my hand too much, but
we'll keep an eye out for that. That should be interesting.
But my day job keeps me very busy right now, though.
I'm sure it does. So let's talk about your job right now. What does it entail? Because we can talk about continuing education, all that entails. But what do you do for day to day? Because you're in charge of all the communications that go out, and that's a lot of channels.
Yeah. It's been. It's taken years to honestly understand all the programs that BYU Continuing Education offers. We have 650 online courses, just right there. I mean, that's amazing. And then we have conferences and workshops. People are familiar with Education Week, Women's Conference, and all the kind of youth camps. We have EFY. We also still work with FSY, so there's some confusion over that because the church sponsors FSY, but we also still have EFY. So that's something a lot of people don't understand. We have academic programs like the Bachelor of General Studies program. We have non-matriculated programs like FlexGE, which is pretty amazing, honestly, because students who don't get into BYU can still take BYU classes in person and online through continuing education. Wow. It's really, honestly, just getting started. And so we just have so many different programs. It's just every day is different. Lots of meetings, lots of, I have a pretty big staff of about 15 people. So our days are full. It's probably hard to answer right off the bat, but as you got into it, what were some surprises? Because I've heard, continuing education, and first I think it was probably maybe some online classes or kind of correspondence, but really it's so much going on in there. What were some of the kind of surprise or interesting things that you discovered as you got more involved with it? Initially I was hired to work on independent study, which is our public-facing, number one, that there are tens of thousands of non-members, not members of our church who take independent study courses all around the world. And our high school courses are our number one best-selling courses. We have a variety of, types of courses and packages of courses that schools can buy and individuals can buy. And so, and we're doing exciting things now. We're working on instituting a new model in our high school courses with knowledge, skills, and attributes. And so we're trying to instill practical skills and then also values and virtues, honestly, like, resiliency and things like that in our courses. Yeah.
It seems to me, you can tell me if I'm wrong, it seems like the high school curriculums, like the online and the course, are becoming more popular than ever. Is that what you're seeing?
Well, we've had a little bit of backlash because of COVID. Sure. And people thought that what their school presented as online education was online education. We published our first online course in 1995. We've been doing this for a long time, and we have it figured out. So, it's not an apples to apples comparison, and convincing some parents, that an online course can be, doable for their child. It can take a little convincing sometimes, but we're working on every day, creating courses that are engaging, have lots of interactive games and activities and videos and transcripts for those videos, because a lot of people like to study the transcript of a lecture. So we're really trying hard to make a course built with everything it needs to have to help students do their best. And then this is a little bit of a breaking news sort of a thing, but we're also expanding our tutoring program to become a student success center.
Oh, wow.
And that hasn't probably been announced, but I don't know if it will be unless I, as the communications manager, kind of announce that. But yeah, that's an internal thing we're working on right now for this summer.
Mm-hmm. I think probably one of the challenges for you is that even though you're not creating all those things, you need to be knowledgeable because you need to communicate to everyone. What process did you go to? Because you're thinking you have a variety of audiences that you're talking to, parents of high school students, people who want to finish their degree. You know, how do you decide exactly how you're going to message these things and what channels you're going to use, like for it, from social media to print mailers or that kind of stuff?
Well, research. We send out surveys. We have pretty large mailing lists. We have, hundreds of thousands of people on our mailing lists, and we try to gauge interest, and we could do more of that. I think everyone could be better at everything.
Sure.
And that's one of the things that I'm working on, is developing our research. But generally also we have many people on our marketing team who are out talking to school counselors, and they keep their finger on the pulse of what's going on every day, and so we talk to them a lot.
I don't know if there is an average day for you, but what does it entail? Is there more of the writing, the editing, communicating, finding out what's going on, and what would be if we followed you around for a day or two, what would we see?
8 or 9 hours of meetings every day lately. Yeah, it's hard. So yeah, it means that I work a lot more than that, because to answer email and, coordinate, work and review work and keep things moving, I have to work into the evening a lot of the time now.
Yeah, keep you very busy. Well, it's an exciting time, especially for those kind of things, I think, moving forward. But let's talk about LDSPMA. So it's been around for, since 2015, somewhere in there.
Yep.
So I wasn't aware of it until just pre-COVID, so about 2019, 2018. So it's been going for a couple of years. Tell us about that, and you were part of getting this thing going. How did that happen?
Yeah, and that ties in with, my experience growing up in a place without very many members of the church. And so I didn't get to go on a name badge mission. I got married when I was 20. So I just heard about this idea. I got an email. I was an adjunct professor at the Y at the time, and this publishing company president from California was sending out this exploratory email to see if anybody else, was interested in helping start this nonprofit that would help members of the church become, better at publishing. And immediately, it was one of those moments where you just go, yes, like I am doing this. And here I am 7 years later, still putting in time and trying to help the cause. And in a nutshell, for anyone who doesn't know, we help members of the church learn how to publish, and not just books, but also media, any kind of video, any kind of podcast, any kind of anything, and even create now art. We just changed our name, so as you mentioned, and so now we are Latter-day Saints, plural, in publishing, media, and the arts. So we're a big tent. We include everyone that likes to create content.
So what was the initial idea? We have this organization. What's the main goal? What do we want to accomplish, bringing members of the church together in this, kind of industry, publishing and now arts and all the media?
Yeah, there are 3 parts. We want to provide education, but we recognize that, there are plenty of sources for education out in the world. You can go find out how to do media, anywhere really now. What we have is an intersection. We teach people the spiritual side of being a creator, and our conference, which is in the fall, covers topics that are at that intersection of faith, creativity, and professional skill. So every talk should have a spiritual element to it. It should teach you how to do your career with the Spirit, with your faith, with your testimony, and to let that shine through everything you do.
How was that initially? So 2015, get the email. You're starting some of that. How did you go about actually recruiting people, putting stuff together? How did that happen?
Yeah, a lot of word of mouth at first. And we worked out a venue. We had some meetings on, on the phone then. No one really knew about, we didn't have Zoom then. Skype was a thing, but we just talked on the phone with a group call, I think. And then we had our in-person meeting April 3rd of 2013 or 2015. And then we just sat, afterward we reconvened and we said, can we do an annual conference this year? And we went, let's go for it. Let's do it. And so we booked the Provo City Library. We met at my house and put together, packets. We had, folders with like the program and all kinds of stuff in it. And we managed to pull it off, 4 months after we formed as an organization to have our first annual conference.
Wow, that's impressive. So for the conference then, 2 parts. I guess anybody who's interested can come and pay to come to the conference over a couple of days. Yep. And then about presenter, who's going to teach, and that, do you ask for volunteers, put a cattle call? How did that go about?
Well, early on, we used our personal Rolodexes. We called everyone we knew, and tried to attract some keynotes that had well-known names, and we bootstrapped it. But now we're getting to the point where people come to us and ask if they can speak, and we're still working out. We're still young at 7 years. We're hoping to last a very long time anyway. We'll keep working on it.
Tell me about the growth of it. Starting from just a handful of people, very interested. How many people are involved now? Your guesstimate as far as people who are both members, because membership is free, right? Yes. So at this point, membership is free, so you can sign up, get the regular newsletters, and actually have some cool Zoom things with professionals, which is kind of fun. Yep. But also then, the conference. So I guess conference attendees versus just membership in general.
Yeah. We want to make sure we help everyone in some way, and so we try to offer as much as we can for free, but we're still a small organization. We have about 1,500 members, which may sound, big, but when you're not charging for membership, that doesn't really help a lot. Right. Our conference will, usually garner about 350 or 400 people. That's the maximum space we have usually. And we're trying to find a new venue for next year for 2023. So
more space.
We need more space next year. But generally, the conference has also changed, and we're offering online options for people who can't be in Utah for those 3 days. And so we're trying out some different models to have a little bit lower price for online options, and we offer pretty good discounts right now. We have a good discount going. But we're trying, but we also have to pay our bills, So.
The no free lunch thing is really true, right? You got to pay the bills. COVID came along, and the first year that I was involved, then someone contacted me, Arthur Jew, you're very familiar with, and actually it was for this program. He said, hey, we're trying to get the word out about LDSPMA. We're going to be doing it this time. Maybe we can arrange to have some guests. And so we did that. So I haven't actually attended the conference because after that, of course, COVID hit. And then it was all online, and I was able to help facilitate, I guess, a couple of sessions, which was fun. How did COVID impact? Obviously, people couldn't attend. What was attendance like when it was all virtual? But now, of course, we've got virtual and in person, so maybe you learned some lessons that will help moving forward.
100%, yeah. It put us in a scramble, like every. I mean, when COVID was beginning, we didn't know, When we were sent home from work at BYU, we thought we'd be home for 2 weeks and we'd be back again. Like we had no clue it was going to be over a year that we'd work at home. And we had to kind of figure out, and I think it was probably about May or June, we realized, we've got to plan an online conference. And so we learned how. we bought a professional Zoom account, and we just had to learn from scratch how to put it together, and we pre-recorded most of the sessions except for the keynotes. And so a session that year consisted of an intro that was live, playing the recorded lecture, and then a Q&A at the end that was live on Zoom. So there was that classroom feel on Zoom, but yet a recorded, captioned experience, for the main lecture part of it. And yeah, it was so much work. It was so much more work than an in-person conference. Not even funny. But we don't want to lose that. I do want to say being, not from here, I absolutely wanted it to be an online experience forever because, we want to reach Latter-day Saints around the world, not just the ones who can live here or afford to come here. And so it's my sincere hope that future leaders will continue to prioritize online activities and online networking and online learning opportunities so that members of the church everywhere can have that support.
Yeah. Well, it worked pretty well. They put out a call, and I answered the call and said, I'll facilitate a couple of them. And they worked well, the pre-recorded, and then usually the people who had presented were there to interact at the end, and there was a lot of good interaction. So it was fun. It was definitely the best we could do under the situation, right, because everything else was canceled. I want to ask you a couple more questions about that. Right now you're the president of the organization, so that entails primarily, what does that primarily entail? Because you've been involved all the time doing lots of stuff, but as president, what different things do you take on?
Well, I would say being vice president is the hardest job.
Okay.
Because you're still, I don't know, you're preparing, to lead, and you're getting your head around it, and you're strategizing, and I did last year. I spent a lot of time planning. We launched a brand new workshop this year, a nonfiction workshop, because I saw a gap. I saw that we've got all these fiction conferences in Utah, and we've got all these events to help people write fiction, and there is not much for nonfiction writers. And so we launched it this year. We offered 5 tracks, 5 different genres of nonfiction writing, and it was a first year. I think we ended up running 4 of the tracks. 1, we didn't have enough registrations, but we've had rave reviews. People have loved the opportunity for one-on-one mentoring from a nonfiction writing coach, and I participated. I took a personal essay class from Joey Franklin. And it was my dream. Like, I had always wanted to take a class from him. So it just was fantastic to be able to be in a class with, I think we had 8 people in our class, and to learn how to write a personal essay, on a level that I had just never heard of before. And he exposed us to lots of new ideas and things we should read. And so that was just the beginning. I'm definitely going to be an essayist for the rest of my life because of that class.
Now, if people haven't attended or haven't been to a lot of conferences, then, typically there's workshops, there's lectures, there's keynotes where everybody gets together. Mm-hmm. And for this one, the variety from how to publish, writing tips, marketing tips, film, all those things that go into it, really a lot of organization that goes with it. Mm-hmm. I asked you at the beginning, but, as you're looking at this, why do you feel such a need, especially as Latter-day Saints, and the arts and writing and stuff, to come together and support each other?
Well, synergy is magical, honestly, and we've already seen so far people who have met at our conference and ended up making a movie together, writing a book together. They create things because of the relationships they form when they meet people in LDSPMA. And I know this is only the beginning. There's a famous, it's famous to me. At our very, very first conference, we had Lyle Mortimer as a presenter. He's the founder of Cedar Fort.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay.
And he said, we are always looking for the book or, fill in the blank, the media item that will cause the church to double in 5 years. And I just love that. Like, I just caught on to that idea and that vision, and I just think, even right now we have a table at a conference in Provo today, and I just think it doesn't matter how much effort it takes. If we find one person that comes and joins us and meets their match for creative efforts and goes and creates that book that helps the church double in 5 years, fantastic. It's worth any amount of effort. It's not, how can we ever put any limits on our attempts to reach out and draw people in.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, I appreciate you taking the time. People are more interested in LDSPMA. It's LDSPMA.org. And check it online. Also for BYU's Continuing Education, same thing. Look it up. Look at all the different things going on there. You're doing a lot of great things. It's such an exciting time to be involved with all this kind of stuff. Erin, thank you so much for taking the time to come and chat with me today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Erin.